Good afternoon, everybody. As a finishing act to the conference today, we'll do a panel discussing some issues of IoT. And maybe we'll start with members of the panel presenting themselves, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Rod O'Shea. Thanks ever so much for speaking English, by the way. I do appreciate it. So I manage for Intel our IoT business in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So that's clearly mainly focused in Western Europe, but 104 countries across this part of the world. IoT is a huge focus for Intel at the moment, and very interested in hearing some of the thoughts of the panel and reinforcing the discussions today. So I won't go through details of strategy now, but I think there is a key area here that the industry has to work together to address.
Good afternoon, Eran Wagner from Gemini Israel Ventures. Very interested in IoT for quite some time, since it was called machine to machine and other names. Recently also focused on organizing events around IoT to help encourage innovation and increase the number of startups in the space.
Hi, my name is Yasser Khan. I'm the founder and CTO of Connect2Me, the first IoT directory and marketplace. So we are working to kind of create the collaboration between all the emerging players in the marketplace right now.
Hi, Eran Rom. I'm from Cisco. I'm responsible for the business development for the security business unit, mainly the ex-NDS team. For you who know who NDS is.
We can't.
Okay, I'm Israel Ron, and I'm the president of Spotem, which is a consultancy entity for the areas of vehicle connectivity, location-based services, and IoT. Okay, guys, let's start with questions, and I want to begin with the fact that actually communication between sensors and cloud applications, communication between hardware devices to other hardware devices, is not actually a new thing. I mean, I dealt with asset tracking 6-7 years ago. And stolen vehicle recovery and vehicle appliances do exist for more than 2 decades. So, I mean, why now? And what's the difference between the M2M, as it was called in the past, and the notion of IoT today?
So just to make a start on that question, why now? I think there are 4 major trends that are converging. So first of all, the whole socialization of the internet, the whole capability for people to engage in social collaborative areas, massive growth of mobility, so the fact that you can have technology and use that in places that you didn't before. The third one is analytics and the ability to take that information and do something useful with it, all then tied back to cloud services and deployments. So I think those 4 trends together are delivering an inflection point for the industry. And I think the change from M2M, which was largely a connection capability, to all of those forces working together, are creating an environment for the type of innovation that we're seeing globally and here in Israel.
I absolutely agree. I just want to add maybe one more technology trend that's helping. I think that helping people imagine new applications and helping people adopt new applications, which is the creation of low-power components, sensors and processors, as well as network elements that enable you to start building devices like watches or bracelets, and start dreaming about devices like shirts and who knows what's next, to actually do things in places where there's not a readily available power source. So I think that enables huge proliferation of new devices, and that's it.
So, as I said in the morning, I actually started my career 22 years back in M2M industry, doing industrial automation. building SCADA systems. So what IoT today is, basically the focus has changed from machine being the centric point to human and our interaction with our environment being the centric point. So some of the technology remains the same, but it's how the applications are built. Now they're being built for our civilization, humanity, our interaction, and not just background virtual machine-based environment. And also the second thing which has powered this revolution is the advent of APIs, the socialization of APIs, the fact that companies can publish valuable information from their ecosystem and do it in a controlled way where they are not basically giving out the key to the bank. So that has enabled a lot of players, who might have a device environment or who might have virtual environment. So according to me, IoT is not only about connecting machines, it's also about the virtual things on the internet, like API services and things.
Well, there's not much to add after these three gentlemen, but I think that one thing that I do want to add is that in addition to the new things that happen, which is the things you mentioned, the internet and IP became very, very, very standard. Bandwidth allows much more traffic, and the cost of making these devices connected is something that allows for much more devices. It's not only machine to machine, but everything, and it's not a coincidence that Cisco embraced the abbreviation Internet of Everything instead of Internet of Things, because it's connecting everything, including human, as you mentioned. So it's the human aspect, it's the every other device and thing that can be connected to it, including applications, including content and data. So there are much more layers above and beyond just the machine connectivity.
Actually, one more. Just one more comment. I think there's another difference, which we don't always realize when we talk about the Internet of Things, is that the fact that we have in our hands today the most sophisticated terminal than we ever had in our hands. If you look at Nest, one of the greatest examples of IoT success was acquired by Google for $3.2, I think, $7 billion. Some funds are going to easily raise their next fund because of that. There's no sense in having that kind of smart thermometer at home if you don't have a device to control it with, which is in everyone's pocket. Another example is Move It. I don't know if you know that company. It was my first investment when I got to Gemini. M2M is all about putting GPSs on all of the buses and concentrating all the data for fleet management purposes. But now you have smartphones in people's hands, and you can use that amazing amount of data in a whole new way, enabling impact on people's day-to-day life in a much more, in a much deeper way than just improving your fleet management.
Maybe to add a little bit, I think that to some extent the application stimulates application, and to some extent at a point of time there are enough applications, enough doing in these areas that caused everybody to pay attention. With enabling technologies, and the ideas begin to grow, and that's what accelerates the market. I think that contributes to. Let's go a little bit to application enabling platforms, APs they are called. I think, at least my opinion, that there are too many of them today. And it seems to me that by having too many of them, they are not really fulfilling their part of the job to become some kind of a standard for developers and to create some kind of a common platforms. What do you think about this area? Are they necessary? Are they fulfilling their goals? And what will happen with this area of application enabling platforms in the future?
So I think a lot of companies are coming into the ecosystem to build an ecosystem. So a number of companies have launched initiatives of trying to aggregate these devices which are getting activated under the umbrella and building a system. But like how IBM and some of the other companies have mentioned, that system of systems need to be developed, not just system. And the system of system is only possible when you have common frameworks where two distinct systems can talk to each other seamlessly. And one of the things which I mentioned in my morning presentation was about IoT consortium, which can build these standards which will allow different cloud mesh networks to talk to each other. So the market would go through a lot of aggregation. There will be a lot of acquisitions as people start hitting critical masses of devices being activated. And once that starts happening, then the bigger players will emerge. So right now it's too early in the marketplace for anybody to claim or put their big stamp on it. So.
I think that even though we would like to think that it's going to be a very big, beautiful, connected world, it will take a lot of time, and the way IoT will evolve is by silos. And I think that it was mentioned by someone today that each and every vertical has its own technology, its own limitations, its own dynamics, its own requirements and needs, and it will take a lot of time until these different verticals will work together. And we see it in the connectivity protocols. I mean, they are from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth to 6LoW, whatever, and Zigbee and Z-Wave, and all of them are having their own place and justification. The same will go with the application framework. There will be many, up to, I don't know, the point that everything will be so stable and so beautiful that it will be standard. But I see it's a long way to go at this point.
So just clear to the delivery of standards, we have to look at the key areas that will be required. So connectivity, security, manageability, analytics and cloud. They're all areas where some standards exist and there are some de facto standards, and we have to look at those and as an industry work out the compelling ways of delivering that. I could talk about frameworks for the next hour. I think that the key thing is with IoT is we also need to demonstrate the real practical deployments that will in their way create the de facto standards. I think part of the challenge for us as an industry and users of IoT is there's massive hype and everyone has their favourite device and their favourite YouTube video of the connected pet or whatever it is.